Thanks for joining us, Dusty Sonnenberg, field leader for the Ohio Country Journal and the Ohio AgNet. We are at the Ohio Field Leader Roadshow. We are up in Fulton County, Ohio, just south of the Michigan state line. The Ohio Field Leader is a project of the Ohio Soybean Council and your checkoff dollars at work. I'm joined today by Les Seiler, a farmer up here. And Les, we're standing in an area maybe most people wouldn't necessarily recognize, a two-stage ditch. First off, thanks for allowing us to come out to your farm. Tell us a little bit about the farm we're on and what is a two-stage ditch and why did you guys decide to construct one?
This farm is has a very winding ditch. That's the purpose of the two-stage ditch. We had worked with the county for a long time, and the best we could do was line these areas that was eroding away with concrete. And we've got dump truck loads of concrete that we hauled back and put in the woods when we constructed this ditch in 2014, because now we've slowed the water down, the velocity of it. We've slowed it down, give it more area to slow it down. We let the sediment fall out of it as it slows down, and it's been a tremendous fit for this farm. I mean, we was just having so much erosion with the speed that it came through here, and the two-stage ditch give it the capacity to slow down.
We're in northwest Ohio, not too far from Fayette. As I said, we're not too far from the Michigan state line and the Tiffin River watershed, which then flows into the Maumee and into Lake Erie. A lot of slope on this farm, maybe, compared to what folks would think about in northwest Ohio. Talk about the amount of fall that you have.
Probably the steepest area on the farm is about 12-degree slope. It's not a lot to some people, but it's a lot from an erosion standpoint on some of the heavier clay soils that we deal with. And in this situation, this ditch is 660 feet long, and it's got 11 foot of slope or fall from in that window. And we was just the destruction that happens with the speed of the water. It's amazing. And as I've said before, I would have been ashamed to bring anybody back here and show them this situation years ago, and now it's just really impressive to see what's happened and how we affected it.
Definitely turned into a showplace for conservation practices, things with water quality management. So you've gone through, you've installed filter strips, you are no longer having to plow in gullies and washouts, but you've got waterways that bring the water down to the ditch, and then a two-stage ditch that really works to slow that water down. Explain sort of what we see here with the channel, with the benches, and then the slopes, how all that sort of comes together.
The area we're standing on is referred to as a bench. It's in this situation, it was engineered based on the velocity of the water, and they size things accordingly. And these benches, when it started out, was 35 foot in width, and they were flat. I mean, it was graded, it was done with laser, and things were done really nice. And we took all the dirt and used it on this farm to fill in other areas that had problem areas. So none of the dirt left the farm. And when it was all said and done, we gained some property in other areas, and we really didn't lose anything with this ditch. The tops is about 70 foot wide. The benches are 30 or 35 foot, and they're probably 2 foot above the water channel. The channel never got disturbed throughout this whole process. And it also means that you could take the benches and adjust them on either side of the ditch. They don't have to be centered by any means, and it works the same way. But just slowing the water down, and started seeing all the sediment fall out as we slowed it down back in the transition areas. We've already dipped some out over since 2014, where there was some windows where we had some large events that a tremendous amount of dirt was eroded away that we captured down here. And that's going to be an ongoing process. The banks on the side are 2.5 to 1. We had a choice of 2 to 1, 2.5 to 1, or 3 to 1. And if I had it to do again, I'd have went 3 to 1, just to make mowing and maintaining maybe a little easier to do. But we mowed this off to kind of show what's going on, what happened here. And it happened in 2014, and it really hasn't destroyed anything since that time.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the different species you have growing out here, too. Obviously, started with something just to control erosion, fescues, and things like that. But you guys have really expanded the different species of grasses, flowering plants, and as we walk through, the number of pollinators that we see out here is quite impressive.
There's this started just to get something growing on it back in 2014. And since then, I wanted to incorporate different pollinators. And I mean, it's a really great habitat area for butterflies, beneficial insects, or whatever we can get attracted to it. And I'll spread clovers sometimes in the spring to just enhance something. I mean, there's just a lot of different things we can do. We're working with a group from the University of Akron that wanted to research prairie grasses. And they come out a couple of years ago and they killed off strips on the banks, and we seeded this prairie grass. And it's some of that stuff that is older stuff that they had success, and their goal with that was to see if they could absorb more nutrients with some of that older, some of the original stuff that they had in the prairies. So we're working with some of that, and I think they're going to come and try some other stuff, but that's the thing. And some of that stuff is hard to establish. Not sure if it'll all work here. Not really sure how long it's going to take to get some of that stuff established, but there's evidence that it's growing, and just the different plants all react different from the thing of the water quality. Just anything we can do to maybe absorb some nutrients out of the water as it flows through, and that's what they're looking at with these different prairie grasses.
Again, I'm Dusty Sonnenberg, your Ohio Field Leader. I'm joined by Les Seiler. We are up in Fulton County taking a look at a very unique, innovative project that other folks may be considering, that being a two-stage ditch. Les, thanks for your time, and thanks again to the Ohio Soybean Council and Checkoff Dollars for making this Field Leader project work.